Lecturers are expected to get the first phase of their 7.9 billion shillings owed to them by the government this month. This is after the government gave in to their demands following weeks of industrial action that paralysed learning in public universities across the country. Brenda Wanga covered that strike and now recounts what it meant for the students and their lecturers.
My name is Brenda Wanga, and for me, events in the education sector stood out in the year 2025, and the most consequential one being the nationwide strike by lecturers from public universities. For a total of 49 days, there was a total paralysis of learning in public universities as the lecturers stuck to their guns, demanding that the government pays them their salaries and their benefits.
The beginning of the semester in September 2025 was like no other. When midnight 17th September struck, the much-hyped strike started. Lecturers and university staff had warned government that if it did not clear the 7.9 billion shillings arrears, the chalk would drop. And it did. Day one of the strike, and the silence in the halls of learning was replaced by a roar outside. Across the country, lecturers protested loudly, their clarion call clear.
We signed a CBA last year on 23rd of November with an agreement over 3 phase payment. They lived up to phase 1. Phase 2 was supposed to be paid from the 1st of July. Yet again, the government has reneged. We as workers have been patient. This is going to be the 3rd month.
If that money is not paid, hawa wafanyikazi hawarudi wapi? Hawarudi.
I spoke to students, especially the new first years who had only been on campus for 2 weeks. The disappointment was palpable. For them, this was a dream deferred.
Tungependa at least tukue tushaanza kuzisoma tujue details zenye ziko hapo ndani, so tuna feel like inatu affect tu sana sisi kama na first years.
The government, as expected, obtained a court order declaring the strike illegal. But the union leaders, seasoned by previous battles, were resolute. They defied the order, arguing that the legal system could not stop their legitimate fight for pay.
No matter whether you are interviewing a lecturer in Maseno or a lecturer in Nairobi or a lecturer in Nyeri, the message that they were giving to the country, to the education fraternity, to the university fraternity was the same. They were not going to go back to class. The only way they were going to do that is if the government paid their money in full.
As the days turned into weeks, the passion of the protests intensified. From the nearly daily colorful protests, lecturers turned university grounds into playfields and dance halls, quite literally.
You could find lecturers out in the squares, the graduation squares of various universities, out in the open, engaging in games, singing, dancing, loud vuvuzelas, protesting in all manners of ways. But for me, what really stood out and what I thought was the breakout star of this strike was Maseno University, where lecturers would show up every day, themed protest, if you may. They would come wearing deras, they would come wearing church choir uniforms, they would come in all manner of attires, and there was a very vibrant sense of protest that came from that part of the country.
But as the lecturers doubled down, the students began feeling the heat, not just from missing classes, but also the growing financial burden of staying on campus. They began leaving their rooms to find financial sustenance outside through side hustles.
So for me not to be idle, I decided to have this work, selling eggs and smokies, of which it is of good beneficial to me.
We shall never be divided.
Behind the scenes, the negotiations were in chaos. Every time a new hope arose, it was quickly crushed. The Education Cabinet Secretary maintained the government simply did not have the full 7.9 billion shillings immediately.
They'll be doing a report today to make a decision as to how much money is outstanding. As you are aware, the unions were demanding 7.9 billion, but SRC indicated that 7.2 billion has been paid. There's a balance of 624.
Nduwasu and Kusu and Korea We are not ready to cede even an inch.
Wakome. Hizo fedha hawa wafanyikazi walifanyia kazi.
By the middle of the 7th week, the economic and social cost became too high to ignore. Parliament's Education Committee stepped in, publicly grilling both the ministry and the unions. The pressure escalated until finally the highest officers in the land were forced to act. The learners, driven to desperation, threatened to join their lecturers on the street. The tension escalated. It was no longer just a labor dispute. It was a national crisis. We heard whispers that the deputy president himself was involved in the mediation effort. The government, finally conceding to the severity of the situation, shifted its stance. On day 49, November 5th, 2025, it was over. A return to work formula was signed. The terms, 7.9 billion shillings arrears, would be paid in 2 tranches. The unions also secured a firm deadline for the completion of the new pay negotiations.
All disciplinary action commenced during the pendency of the industrial action shall be deemed withdrawn.
We're going to have an interministerial CBA implementation team.
The relief was immediate. The campuses were once again alive, but the work was only just beginning.
Covering these 49 days was a lesson in compromise, defiance, and the sense of a delayed justice for learners. It also brought to the fore the chronic issues that bedevil education in Kenya, especially chronic underfunding of public universities.